Hi and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be going through all the pottery tool essentials. I'm going to cover everything from the basics that you'll need if you're just starting out to additional handy tools if you want to expand your pottery tool collection, as well as if you don't have access to any pottery tools and you don't have access to buy any pottery tools, what household items you can use instead. Okay, let's get started. The nice thing is that you can usually find a pottery starter toolkit at any craft store or online on Amazon. This starter kit is great because it is very handy and versatile. It's everything that you need to start off, and it can be used for both hand building and throwing on the wheel. Firstly, the needle tool is used to cut out shapes out of a slab, or if your top of your piece is uneven, you can use it to trim that away. You can also use it to write into your clay. You just etch into it instead of cutting all the way through, or to poke holes through clay. Honestly, anything that you can think of, you can use it. The nice thing about pottery tools is that it's versatile and there's actually no right or wrong way to use something. If it works to get your piece to where you want it to be, then it's working. The modeling tool helps you blend clay or attach pieces together. You can see on the one side it is slightly curved, and that's to kind of mimic a thumb of how you would blend two pieces together or smooth a surface, which is especially handy when you're making a piece and you can't quite reach inside the piece. This will help you reach there very easily. On the other side, it's kind of like a very blunt knife, but this is also handy to cut out things if you need and to help blend edges. The wire tool is used to cut pieces of clay away. So when you have your bag of clay and you need to cut a chunk off, it's way easier just to use wire to slice through it. And then if you're making things on the wheel, the wire tool is used to take the piece off of the wheel. You wire under it, which cuts it off the wheel, and then you pick up your piece. A rib tool is used to smooth surfaces or help with shaping. If you're hand building, a rib tool is used to smooth a slab, for example, and also to compress. You get many different types of rib tools, so this one that usually comes with a starter kit is just a thin metal rib tool. Like this would be handy to help shape the inside of a bowl because of that curve. It's also very soft, whereas this one's a little bit more sturdy. I like to use it for straight edge and scraping off slabs. So yeah, you get lots of different shapes and uses of ribs, but the standard one that comes in a starter kit is just this metal rib. Lastly, in the starter kit, you get a trimming tool, and it has a different shape wire on each side. And this is handy to carve away from your clay. This is also used when throwing on the wheel to trim away clay. Also, just a quick disclaimer, I'm not going to go in depth with explaining how things are made or why exactly something needs compressing, for example, because in this video it's just going to be way too long. So I'm just focusing on the tools needed. If you would like to learn more about the basics of pottery, how it's done, the whole process, everything, I will link the videos below. I've got a video explaining all the basics for pottery, everything that you need to know before starting. There's also a video explaining the 5 most common mistakes when throwing on the wheel. There's also another one answering the most commonly asked questions. For example, can you fire clay in your oven at home? So I'm not going to go in depth. I will link those videos down below in the description box, so make sure to check that out. And yeah, back to the tools. You also get different styles and like shapes of the same tools. They do the exact same thing. So for example, this needle tool, that's the very simple basic one, but you also get this one from Mud Tools, which is hidden in there, and then you can clip it out. So as you can see, it does look different, exact same job. Also for the trimming tool, here's another example of what one could look like. Again, this is from Mud Tools. And then for the sponge, so this is the standard sponge, which again, very versatile, very handy. But you also get different coarseness and shapes. So for example, these ones from Mud Tools are kind of like a flat bean shape. That one is a lot more coarse than this one. This one's a lot more smooth. So it just has different uses. So I would use the coarse one for making and pulling walls, for example. And then I'll use the finer, smoother sponge to finish off and smooth the surface. And the last basic tool that is needed is a rolling pin. So make sure to use a wooden rolling pin. Metal will stick to the clay, So yeah, use a wooden rolling pin. It's more porous and it's less likely to stick to your clay. Okay, now on to tools that are very handy to have if you want to expand your collection. The first tool that I suggest adding onto your collection, if you already have the basics, is a scoring tool. So here's an example of one. This one's from Mud Tools again. This is just to score the surface when you are scoring and slipping and attaching two pieces together. It also comes in like this. It looks like that metal rib, but the edges are serrated. That is very handy to have, because if you don't have that, then you're basically using your needle tool to make each etching when you're scoring. This just saves a lot of time and effort. So yeah, this would be the first thing that I would add on to your collection. Another very handy thing to have are rolling pin guides. So these are just scrap pieces of wood that I found that are the same thickness. As you can see, they're exactly the same. And this helps you to roll your slabs in even thickness throughout and to not roll them too thin. Another handy tool is a sponge on a stick. This is very handy when you need to reach inside of your piece to smooth out the surface where your hand and a sponge won't be able to quite reach. You also get lots of different sizes. So you do get a lot longer ones if you're making taller pieces that you need to reach down, and you're obviously like shorter ones like this. Very handy when throwing on the wheel as well to absorb any water that may be in your piece. So this one looks very similar to a needle tool, but it actually has little balls on the end, which I like to use for etching designs in or writing my name, because it gives a bit of a softer finish than the sharp needle tool. So I wouldn't say this is vital, but I have definitely found this handy just to make neater finishes for writing. I love this tool. I don't actually know exactly what it's called, but it kind of looks like a grater, and it's used to trim away or like shred away clay in larger areas. I love to use this to smooth out a bumpy surface or a top that isn't quite level, because it's kind of like trimming, but it makes it a lot more level and like smooth throughout, because it's a larger surface that it's evening out the whole section, if that makes sense. There's also a few more tools that I don't personally have in my collection, but is definitely on my list to get, and that is a hole tool. You get a variety of different sizes, but it's essentially a tool to help make a very neat hole in your clay. This can be used for like making berry colanders or pot plants, for example. Next is a caliper, which is very, very handy when you want to make multiple of the same thing that needs to be the same size. So the caliper, you would make your first one, you measure it with the caliper, either the internal dimension or the external dimension, tighten it so you keep it on that measurement, and when you make another one again, you just pick that up, see if it's the same size, and keep going from there. Next is glaze dipping tongs. So I always suggest as a beginner to use brush on glazes, just because it's very user friendly. But if you are using dipping glazes, it can get very messy to use your hands to dip in the glaze. And so these tongs, they kind of have like 3 prongs to hold your piece and dip it in the glaze without getting it all over your hands or leaving fingerprints on your piece. If you are a potter and you feel like I've missed out on anything that's been super handy for you to use and you would love other people to know or to let me know, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts, as well as if you have any questions. If you don't have any of these tools and you don't have access to buy any tools, don't worry. There's always a way around making things for pottery. The tools are just to make it more efficient. So firstly, if you don't have a needle tool, you can use something like a knife if you need to cut anything out, or a toothpick if you need to etch or poke a hole or anything. So yeah, a knife or a toothpick. To score, you can use a fork. For a rib tool, you can use a credit card to help smooth or compress the surface. For a modeling tool, you can use an ice cream stick. Wire tool, I've never actually tried a household item, but I've heard you can use floss. Let me know if you've tried it and if it works. If you have questions whatsoever, please feel free to leave them in the comments below, or you can send me a message on Instagram. If you want to follow along on my socials, my ceramic Instagram is clay.ceramics.ws. WS stands for Wendy Stone, and my social Instagram is wens.stone. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps a lot more than you think, and it's free. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!